The following program may be pre-recorded.
The following program is sponsored by Max Out Savings Advisors. The views expressed during the broadcast are solely for entertainment purposes and do not necessarily express the views of KNTH, its management, Max Out Savings Advisors, or its sponsors. Max Out Savings Advisors and members of the Max Out Savings team may or may not hold securities mentioned during the show. Plan for your prosperity. Prepare for your retirement. Safeguard your savings. And nurture your investments. This is the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka, a presentation of Max Out Savings Advisors. Now, here's your host from Max Out Savings Advisors, Ted Gioka.
Welcome to the Max Out Savings Show. I'm Ted Gioka, and we're talking savings investments in your retirement here on our show. Our show is all about saving money, building up wealth, and understanding the world today. Our motto and our philosophy is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. That's the key to building up wealth over the long term. Save aggressively and invest conservatively. You always want to start out with your company plan and build up money from there. Put away the money, build up the wealth, and save your money for the future. Take charge of your retirement. Now, we got a lot to talk about in the show today. We always try to, the Max Out Savings Show, for new listeners, we really try to keep you ahead of some of the big trends, explain what's going on in the world today. Try to make it so that you can understand what's going on. There's a lot of talk in the mainstream media. It's just a little frustrating sometimes. People don't seem to know what they're even talking about. And so we want to give you a different perspective. So again, it's just the world is moving so quickly. One of the things we've been talking about on the show for a while is really trying to get people to understand that President Trump is a transitional president. And we're making a transformation in the United States of America. We're restructuring the U.S. government, something that hasn't been done probably since Bill Clinton. Ronald Reagan did a good job of it. He went through his first time as president, and he basically got signed up a bunch of establishment people in Washington, a lot of Rhino Republicans and people that have been there forever, and they basically went in and the comment was made that Paul Ryan and the rest of the crew, and they were going to be the adults in the room. And I think it was when we had General Mark Milley assuring the Chinese that if Trump went off the rails, he was going to ensure that they were protected. And yet then he went on to work for a senile president under Joe Biden and didn't say a word to the Chinese. And so Trump had 4 years to wait this out. He studied it. He looked at it closely. He had his people look at it. And this time he's putting in his own people. But more importantly, it's not just that he's putting in his own people. He's putting in the strongest, most dynamic cabinet since Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which is a huge – I mean, no one was even alive for all practical purposes when they can really understand. They weren't old enough to understand what Roosevelt did. But if you read through the books, he was a game changer. Now, Anthony Schley's in the phenomenal book, The Forgotten Man, has commented that, look, a lot of his socialist agenda he put in place delayed the Depression, dragged it out for a decade until World War II came in. But you cannot deny that Roosevelt put in huge changes. And so, because he had a very strong cabinet, Kennedy had a very strong cabinet. And so he realizes he can't do it himself. He's got great people around him. These are transformative people. They're people that don't need to be there. Look at Elon Musk. I mean, it's just the list goes on. Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, Secretary of State Rubio, RFK Jr. I mean, it's just you can just go way down. Typically in a cabinet, you name two superstars, and there's a bunch of people no one's ever heard of that really haven't done a whole lot themselves. This cabinet, you just go right down the list. Even his people like Mideast negotiators or special envoys are like billionaires or incredibly successful people he's sticking into these positions. And so he is transforming the United States. Now, look, like, hey, this, why is he doing it? A couple things. We're running massive budget deficits. Last year, the budget deficit came in at 6.4% of GDP. Under Biden, here are the numbers: 12%, 12.4% debt to GDP, 21, 22, 5.5, 23, 6.3, 6.4% in 24 budget deficits. Now, if you're spending 6%, on this show, we're just talking about, save money, invest conservatively, save aggressively, invest conservatively, put away 10%, plus get 30%. These people were spending 6%. It's like, have a good life. Spend 6% more. Don't save any money. And that's what they were doing. And so there's just been this complete orgy of spending to the point after the election, it reached the insanity level that they took $20 billion and gave it to a bunch of NGOs, non-government entities that they just created a few months beforehand to park the money over there so they could. It was extraordinary. So, hey, it's all great until you have to pay the money back. It's all great. Spending the money is fantastic until you've got to pay the credit card, until you have to pay the bills. And that's where we are. We have to pay the bills. All the COVID money spent ended September 30th. Why was that? Because it's the end of the fiscal year for 2023. But more importantly, it goes right up into the election, so the economy had very good spending levels. In addition, Biden stuck in a bunch of extra spending for 24, so the economy would look good, so he would get reelected. That's all come to an end, and and so these things are big changes. They're transformative changes that are happening. They're going to affect your life. More importantly, your retirement and the quality of your life, unless you understand them. And this is why we're talking so much about them. There was a very interesting story this week Treasury Secretary Bessent came out, and he spoke at, I believe it was the Economic Club in New York. I have a cup of coffee here. And I think it's important to look at that to really understand, because the theory is well, look, the market's falling now. See, things were going so well under Joe Biden. Now here comes Trump. He used it was kind of the detox speech, and basically what he said is a couple things. He said the market and the economy have just been hooked. We're addicted to government spending. There's going to be a period of detox. What did I just say about these massive budget deficits? Keep in mind, we're borrowing an additional $1 trillion, $1 trillion every 100 days to fund this. We can't keep this up. I mean, any way you look at this, our debt to GDP is over, I think it's 125% of GDP. I think once it goes over about 110, the research says it always ends badly for the countries. We're there now. Our debt levels are there now. $1 trillion every 100 days. We've been averaging 6-7% GDPs for the last 4. And keep in mind they had the COVID in 2020, so it was actually about 13. So we've been averaging massive, incredible spending coming in. Well, so this year we have to borrow or refinance $7 trillion. I've seen some numbers as high as $9 trillion. Where's this money going to come from? So things are going to slow down. The government spending is dropping off. We're doing layoffs right now, and we're going to try to get rid of 5 to 8% of the government employees. They're also cutting spending. They're finding just stupid levels of government spending. I mean, the more fascinating thing about the DOGE Commission is the amount of just fraud and corruption they're finding. I mean, it's just if you listen to what people say, they say, "What's surprising you?" They said, "Well, it's really much worse than we thought. We didn't realize there was this level of corruption in the system." And so this is all coming to an end. This is a detox period. Well, detox period is it's typically not a good situation. And now the Democrats are all blaming Trump for the economic slowdown. This is like you're in college, you go over to your friend's house, they've had a massive party the night before, everybody's drinking, there's beer cans everywhere. You come rolling in, they're all hungover, and you go, guys, what's happening? And they all blame you for feeling bad. This is the situation. By him saying detox, he's saying, look, it's going to be a little rough in here. It's like this is not going to be an easy thing to get off a detox. I mean, this is the one thing you don't want to go into detox. That's a bad situation. And this is why we saw one of the reasons we saw this market kind of continue to fall. He made a couple more interesting remarks as well. I think this is, from time to time, it's important. You hear Bob Rubin, John Conley. What's Conley made? What was it? A falling dollar. What was it? Might be our problem, but it might be a concern to us, but it's your problem. From time to time, Treasury secretaries have made important speeches, and I believe this is fundamentally one of them that really is not well understood. He said a couple other things. He said Wall Street has done great, but this administration, quote, is about Main Street. And again, that's another way of saying, look, guys, we're not here for you. We're not putting a put under the market. We're not going to go bail out the stock market because people in the country are suffering. Another fascinating remark, Treasury Secretary. And by the way, when he said, Wall Street has done great. This is about Main Street. Keep in mind, he's a money manager, an investment manager, hedge fund type of guy. He's not in Wall Street. He's not in New York City. He's in the Carolinas. These people grew up, they're outside of the bubble of New York City. It made another remark, which surprised me as well. 50% of the consumer spending in the United States is coming from the top 10%, which again, in the bottom 50%, 10%. So in the bottom 50%, they're all suffering. So we have a very good economy. I mean, the standard, and a lot of this is a couple things. It's young people with no house, no nothing, and an apartment and good jobs, or they're married, they have two incomes, no kids, no house. I mean, I cannot tell you how many friends of mine remark about their kids or their friends, this 25 to 35-year-old group that basically, you're not doing anything unless you have a once-a-year European vacation. And it's like it's almost become a joke how much these people travel and fly around. And they're spending money like no tomorrow. But other people with families, they're struggling. People with just single incomes, they're struggling. Single parents are struggling. And so I think that's a concern on a couple things. I think what they're sort of telling you is they're going to try to target the tax cuts really to more middle class. I think the wealthier tax cuts are really going to come in the form of depreciation or different things to encourage people to invest money, put in plant and equipment. So what is he saying? He's saying, look, the government's addicted to government spending. We're cutting back government spending. There's going to be a period of detox. It's going to be tough. Wall Street's done very well. Don't come expect us to sit there and bail you out. We're here for Main Street. You guys at the top are spending all the money, having a great time, and there's people underneath you that are struggling. And so they're kind of throwing down the populist gauntlet. And so he's sort of saying things are going to get tough. The economy is going to slow. Now after this quick break, we're going to go through this and kind of explain, some of the other things that we're looking at in here. But this is one of the reasons why the market had a horrible week the worst week in a year or two, and we're seeing this continued slowdown. But it's not a real positive for the stock market for Bessent to be saying, Secretary Bessent to be saying this, because he's saying don't expect the bailout from us. The good news is they're putting in that transition. They're changing. He has commitments for at least $500 billion in plant and equipment, and I've lowballed that because some of these people are promising $100 billion or trillion. I'm assuming it's going to go down some, but there's a solid $500 billion worth of plant and equipment coming in, but that's going to take time. Restructuring things, restructuring a company, restructuring anything takes time. It's a lot of turmoil and stuff, and that's what we're going through now, so we can get through out of it to become a much stronger country. Now, tell you what, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll discuss some more of this right here on the Max Out Savings Show.
The Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka is taking your calls now at 713-339-1070. Ted Gioka will return after these messages.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. Ted Gioka, the founder of Max Out Savings Advisors, always says, save aggressively and invest conservatively. He specializes in helping people grow their retirement account with as little risks as possible. Ted combines working knowledge with the intuition gained from over 25 years of experience of value investing in the stock and bond markets for retirement accounts. Like you, Ted is deeply conservative in life and in his investment approach. His risk strategy allows him to anticipate market downswings to protect your money. Ted is also the conservative host of the Max Out Savings Show. You can listen to him every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. right here on The Answer. If the idea of saving aggressively and investing conservatively appeals to you, the best way to get to know Ted is to call him. The number is 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com. That is maxoutsavings.com. Call Ted right now, 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com.
Hi, this is Ted Gioka of the Max Out Savings Show. Our motto and philosophy is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. The world is changing at a faster rate than any time in the last 50 years. The investment world has changed. Have you changed? Inflation will destroy your retirement. It is a different world that requires different strategies and ideas. The era of indexing and investing is over. If you need help, listen to the Max Out Savings Show. Our show airs every Saturday at 10 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. We talk about investments, the world, and where the world is going today, and help you understand it and help you save money and build up wealth. It's the Max Out Savings Show. And if you need some help, go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com. On the website, you can sign up for the free Max Out Savings Report. Our report covers all types of these big issues, the changes in the world, and helps you understand and protect your retirement. So go to the website, maxoutsavings.com.
We return now to the Max Out Savings Show. Here's Ted Gioka.
Welcome back to the Max Out Savings Show. We're talking savings investments in your retirement. We're just talking about what's happening in the world, about a big speech by Treasury Secretary Bessent, really throwing down the gauntlet that, hey, this administration is about Main Street. The government, the economy has been addicted to out of control government spending. We're going to go through a tough detox. He didn't say tough, but he used the word detox, period, which is not a good situation. And really, this week the market, the S&P fell 3%. It's down year to date, and about the same place it was in October. So really, actually right around the election time, and so why is it dropping? A couple things. I mean, it's what Treasury Secretary Bessent said. I mean, which is the obvious. If you look at, these are the things that are really starting to get the market. And this is why you have to be cautious in here. We're having actually a really good year here. With our clients, and the reason is because we anticipated some of this. But a couple things. What are we looking at in the economy? I think we need to take a look at the world today. A couple things. We're dealing with tariffs. Now, if you listen to mainstream media, a lot of people, this is the tariffs. The tariffs are causing these problems. The tariffs are not causing the problems. It's the underlying spending slowdown of the economy that's starting to affect things. The the tariffs are something that's going to be done. Now, when it comes to the tariffs, I want to give a couple thoughts on this. They keep saying a couple things. Donald Trump is not serious about the tariffs. He's already backing down. That's not true. What President Trump is doing is he's like this week he said that look, anything that's part of I think it was the NAFTA or the original one of the recent trade negotiations with Mexico. I think it's the NAFTA or one of the others. They're not going to be tariffs. All those tariffs are going to be delayed till April 4th. The same thing, he's putting off some of the other tariffs in other countries. So they're going, Trump is backing down. No, President Trump is not backing down. It's like, hey, these are complicated issues. Let's delay the tariffs 1 month so we can negotiate. What we're looking to do is negotiate a settlement with everyone, negotiate fair trade. But these anti-Trumpers are just so fanatical. Every time he does anything, they give you a false impression of what's happening. Now, the fascinating thing about the tariffs is the tariffs. Two things: the tariffs are changing the way people look at the world. But President Trump is very serious about fair trade. Too many countries have been just taking advantage of us, and every single time we try to get this, big companies rush in to try to save themselves at the expense of working people. And we might see a little higher cost. Inflation's already higher. But you have to ask yourself, I mean, do we want to – we can probably cut the price of everything if we ship everything overseas. The only problem is no one's going to have a job to afford it in the United States. And if we get into a war or if we get into a COVID like we saw, like a pandemic, we saw all our pandemic supplies are coming from China and all our medicine is coming from China. Like, hey, whoa, we're covering our people first. Their job in Washington in the administration is to protect the people of the United States of America. That's a fundamentally different attitude than the administrations over the last 30 years, where their job was to protect Wall Street and protect corporate America at the expense of the working people. So the tariffs, Trump is serious about the tariffs. We're making progress on the tariffs. We're making very good progress with Sheinbaum in Mexico. They're cutting back the illegals. They're going to cut back the fentanyl. She's working. She's trying. We'll have a good relationship. Canada's another issue. Trudeau's a globalist. If Mark Carney gets in there, and there's another lady, they're trying to get. These are hardcore globalist World Economic Forum people that want to sow dissension. I think Canada's going to be one of the tougher ones personally. I think these globalists, they want to take out Trump, and we can't afford to have them sitting up there on the northern border fomenting unrest in the United States. And so watch Canada. It's going to be a little tougher. Europe, they're going to have to sit down with Europe. As we said, as been said numerous times, is there's all types of Mercedes-Benzes and Audis and BMWs all over in U.S. cities, but you go to Europe, there's no one's driving a Dodge Ram or a Ford F-150 pickup truck over there, and so some of these things have to be changed. The other thing I want to cover here, so that's an uncertainty for the markets. The other thing I want to cover is the Ukraine war. Look, that deal with Zelensky in the White House was a fascinating thing. I mean, if you really sit down and look at it. It actually had massive changes around the world. It's one of the most people saw. Look, these meetings like this aren't unusual. They're typically behind the scenes where people are arguing back and forth, and then they trot out an hour or 2 or 3 hours later, and all of a sudden, everything is kumbaya. And so people got to see how negotiations, how things were handled. Zelensky clearly has control issues. There seems to be some real issues with him. The question is, was he egged on by Democrats that he met with beforehand? The Europeans circled the wagons around. This is a fascinating thing, is that what we're seeing here is Zelensky did this. There was a big issue coming in, and what happened was that the dog just came in. What we saw happen is the Europeans circled the wagons, and they're like, oh no, the Americans aren't going to protect us anymore. Which is, I think they're losing their mind. But what happened is they came in. The Germans have now come out and said, "Look, we're increasing government spending, and we're going to increase defense spending for the first time." Trump has been all over them. The Americans are all over them to increase spending to help NATO. They've said, "No, we're not doing it." Finally, what happened was they finally came in and made big decisions. Now, this had huge ramifications. Once the Germans announced that they're going to increase massive defense spending, the German bond, the 10-year bond, went from 2.5% to 2.9% in one day. It backed down a little bit. This was the biggest move since 1997, and on the term in 1997, interest rates were much higher. If you figure that into account, this is the biggest move in history for German bonds, because people are realizing that the Germans are going to take on more debt, and things are going to continue. Are going to continue to sit there, and they're going to continue to spend money. So what we're seeing there is that's a big move. The German markets are up because they're going to. Trump finally convinced the Germans, the French, and all the rest of them to start spending more money on defense, something no one has been able to do, by saying, "Hey, look, we're not giving you infinite money for wars for the Ukraine." It panicked the Europeans, and so. This is a big game changer. So Europeans are going to start spending more money because of this. So this is something I think we want to watch very closely and understand. This is affecting the different markets. So in addition, the dollar fell. The dollar fell. Where's my number? 3.8%. Outside of the German bond, this was the biggest drop of an asset class last week. The biggest drop was the U.S. dollar, which I cannot remember that ever happening. I mean, I think you probably have to go back to the times of maybe John Connally being Treasury Secretary, and I think it was a couple reasons. I think it was. I think it was Commerce Treasury Secretary Bessett's speech where he says, "Look, we're going to slow down some government spending, which means less government spending, which means less borrowing." I think it was also what's going on around the world. So this is another big change. So just this week, huge change out of Europe, biggest move in the German bond market in history. If you look at it, The other situation we're looking at is this week we had the consumers are starting to slow down. The people are starting to understand the economy is slowing. Why is the economy slowing? Let me give you a couple reasons. Government spending, as we said, is slowing down. The COVID money is over. All the reckless Biden spending has come to an end. The Doge Commission is cutting spending. They're finding reckless waste. They're cutting that. They're going to cut that government layoffs. They're going to cut 5 to 8% of the government employees. That's a big drop. Consumers are slowing down. They're starting to deal with very tough issues with with inflation. It's not easy for a lot of people out there. So we're seeing that. So the market is now recognizing a consumer slowdown is coming, and so this is the point. We're in this detox period. We're in this period of government spending is slowing down. There's layoffs coming in the government, and it's not just going to be the federal government. There's been a lot of money given to state and local governments. A lot of COVID money was given to school districts to help out, and the problem is a lot of the school districts just hired more administrators or DEI experts, and now the money's run out, and they're going to have to start laying off people there. So you're going to see a slowdown coming. This is this detox. We got this period where we have to wait for the tariffs to kick in, the new plant and equipment to come into the United States. And remember, if you're the Biden administration or the Trump administration, or quite frankly any administration, you come in the first year of your presidency. You want to take all the big hits. You want to make the big changes. You want to kind of break the glass in the room, so to speak, so you can clean it all up, because typically in order to make big changes, that's what happens. So by the next year, when the congressional elections come up, the economy is doing well and things are coming back up. So this is why we're seeing the drop overall in the economy in here today. This is why we say, look, I mean, if you look at the numbers this week, it wasn't pretty. The S&P was down 3.1%. NASDAQ was down 3.4%. The Russell 2000 off 4%. The dollar is off 3.8%. If you look at interesting gold, we've been talking about gold. Gold was up 2.3% this week. Silver was up 4% this week. So again, in periods of uncertainty, out of control budget spending, wars with Ukraine, massive defense spending around the world. The Chinese are now spending more money. Currencies are falling. Gold and silver are going to do well. I think within the next 3 years we'll see a major currency crisis. Likely not in the United States, but somewhere overseas. And I think it's going to happen. If you look at these budget, the budget deficit to Japan is over 200%. Some of the European countries have huge amounts of debt. And so I think you're going to see somewhere in the world a major crisis coming up. And one of the more worrisome things was not worrisome, but the other thing is, we talked this week, and I'm listening to the news, the financial news networks and the other ones, and they're all going on and on about the tariffs. The tariffs, Donald Trump is doing this. As we said on the show, it's not the tariffs. Bank of America dropped this week 4.4%. The banks were dropping. The banks were telling you there's some type of issue. The banks got nothing to do with tariffs. J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, they don't have anything to do at all with tariffs. Yet they're falling. And so again, this slowdown is coming. Likely we're going to see the interest rates have been very high in here. Commercial real estate is slowing down. The government's going to use less commercial real estate. That's going to be an issue. And the economy is slowing, which is going to hurt them. But the banks are telegraphing a problem. The Bund, the German rise in the German market is telegraphing a problem. The drop in the dollar is telegraphing a problem. Where the dollar is the biggest declining asset in the world, outside of the German Bund, that's something you probably can go back 50 years and not see. 50, where's that? Take us back 7. I'll say you can go back at least 40 years and never see anything a week like this. And so I think even during the financial crisis, it wasn't. You didn't see those type of moves where the German yields went up. And I know they didn't, and the dollar fell like that. And so this is telling you that the financial system is destabilizing. And again, this is another reason why we said you want to be cautious. You want to have higher levels of cash. In these markets, you want to have commodities. There's more talk this week that China's been stockpiling more commodities. I mean, China's girding for war. I mean, they pretty much have said it. And so all of these things are kind of working into the whole situation. Now, we had a bad week in the markets overall. As I said, the S&P has fallen. It's fallen. It's down 3% on the week. What did I say? Yeah, 3.1%. Eventually, looking at this, I almost think it's at the 200-day moving average. It went through it. It came up. It almost feels like it wants to go up some. I mean, either just falls apart next week at the beginning of the week, or it rallies in here some. And then keep in mind what's coming up here. We got the budget. They have to come up with the budget, and you have the debt ceiling. And so the question is, are the Democrats going to try to stop the debt ceiling, to shut down the government? And they're basically, their plan seems to be going, well, I'm not sure they actually have a plan, but they're pretty much scorched earth against the Trump administration. So we have this budget deficit that's coming up, limit, which they're going to have to do something with. So what we're looking for is again, I don't think this is over. I think this is all this is an ongoing process. And one of the things that's worrying me is just an enormous number of people saying, look, you got to buy the dip. You always buy the dip. The market always goes up. And it's almost like everybody has drank the Kool-Aid, and you got to be a little bit careful when you start hearing that type of talk. The tech sector, I still think, is in trouble. Here, we've been saying that. We actually had some shorts on the tech sector. We kind of pulled them off in here at the end of the week just because it's a little unclear here. We want to just keep higher levels of cash for the portfolios. But it's these. You realize About 2 or 3 months ago, the S&P 500 was basically running right about it. The total market capitalization in the United States was 70% of the world's market capital. 70%. We're I think around 20% of GDP. The market capitalizations are so gigantic in the U.S. This is why Europe is doing better. This is why, and we've been saying, we've been picked up some European stocks here recently because the valuations are very cheap. The dollar is very strong, and so this is the other thing we're seeing, and these things are still there. Tell what. We're coming up here in a quick break. There's a couple of things on how to extend your retirement income we've got coming up here I want to talk about, and some other interesting things on technology right after this quick break right here on the Max Out Savings Show.
The Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka will return shortly. To speak with Ted Gioka now, call 713-339-1070. Back in a moment with the Max Out Savings Show.
In the 1970s, the big song was the Bee Gees' Stayed Alive. Well, it was difficult back then to stay alive if you were a retiree. Inflation was running rampant, and since then, over the last 25 years, it's gone away. Well, inflation's coming back, and it's going to endanger your retirement. If you're a retiree, inflation is your biggest enemy. Hi, this is Ted Gioka of the Max Out Savings Show. If you need help with your retirement, I'd like to help you out. Go to maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com, and we'll show you how you manage through inflation. Don't let inflation destroy your retirement.
I'm Sam Malone, president of 512 New Media. We're Houston's leading marketing and content creation firm for many reasons. Our assets are exceptional, from video production to web design, strategy, and the ability to say no. Saying no is integral in launching a successful, profitable campaign. For example, take a look at Memorial Day. It's a federal holiday set aside to honor and mourn those in our U.S. military who died while serving our country. I'll say it again, for those who died while serving our country. So how does having a sale work in unison with the reason for the day off? Look, we know people will be at the beach and barbecuing and having parties. We would probably say no to launching a Memorial Day sale. So is there another way to commemorate the day while marketing your brand? Absolutely. And from our experience, the same holds true with Easter Day sales and MLK Day sales and Christmas Day sales. That's why we're different. No cookie cutter, follow the crowd, template marketing. Let's talk. We're 512 New Media. 512 New Media. With better marketing comes better value, creating better results.
If you can snap your fingers, you can find this radio station. So the next time you want to listen to us, your smartphone is now your smart radio. We're always on. This is AM 1070, The Answer.
Once again, here's your host for the Max Out Savings Show, Ted Gioka.
Welcome back to the Max Out Savings Show. I want to mention one of our sponsors, Rangoni Alto Gin, one of the world's finest botanical gins out of the Italian Alps. These guys have been brewing different botanical drinks for 1,000 years up there, and they've been able to put together just incredible flavors in a gin. It's all organic, natural, wheat alcohol, and one of the finest gins in the world. It's Rangoni Alto Gin. Look for the kingfisher bird on the label. Now, we sent out our free Max Out our savings report this week. Friday it went out, Friday morning. If you didn't get a copy, check your inbox or your spam filter, and it should be there. You can get a copy of it by going to maxoutsavings.com and requesting a free subscription. We're not going to call you up. We're not going to buy you. But we write about all types of interesting things. One of the things we covered is how do you grow your retirement income? And so as people get close to retirement, they come to us and we give them a free evaluation. You can schedule it if you'd like, but oftentimes, sometimes people don't have enough time. Like, I'm not sure if I want to continue working, and do you like working? Do you not? We try to cover some of these issues, but we went and looked to see someone that had. I tried to use a real reasonable number, kind of a low number, and with a person at age 62. They're looking to retire at age 62. They have $600,000 in income, which only, if you use 5%, which is a touch aggressive, but typically it's used about 4.3 based on some research. But let's say they use 5, it's $30,000 in income. So you go, well, look, I'm not. Plus, you get Social Security. They have a certain income. They're like, well, I'm not sure I can live on that. So well, let's look and see if you continue to work up to age 66, at the end of age 66, and we assume the account grew by I think 8% and 7%. We looked at 7% growth rate, and then the person added $12,000 a year to their 401k plan. Again, I try to use reasonable numbers, nothing spectacular, to kind of give people an idea. So it wasn't. I mean, I think most people can actually, if they're in that real saving part to try to hit for retirement, can save more than $12,000 a year. But I wanted to come up with something that was real reasonable. And by the end, so they start out with $600,000. By the end of age 66, by waiting basically 4 more, 62, 63, 60, basically 4 more years, they end up saving actually close to 5. $827,000 is what's in their plan. They've been able to put in an extra $48,000. It's 4 years, and their income is now $41,000, which is a 38% increase in their income. And so this just goes to show you, by working that extra 5 years, you're able to put away a lot more money for retirement. You're able to boost your income. And keep in mind, by waiting also, rather than taking your Social Security when you can first take it, it grows at 8% as well. So you're picking up more money as well. So delaying retirement can have a huge difference on your retirement, particularly if you're on that kind of bubble where you're not real comfortable with your savings rate. And we put the little scenario in the report to kind of in the numbers each year in the report, so you can see it. And again, I think these are very conservative numbers across the board for this. Maybe the 5% is a little aggressive, but everything else is super doable. And remember that Social Security grows at 8% every year you delay it up until age 70. At age 70, you want to start taking out your money because it's not going to grow. Your annual pay is not going to grow anymore, with the exception of the inflation adjustment that everybody gets. So, and we write about that. And we'll write in here too is, remember, nobody ever runs out of money in the first 5 or 10 years of retirement. It's longer term. So by delaying out your retirement 5 years, you also set yourself up better for retirement. Most retirees, I think you got to expect a retirement of really 20 to 30 years. This money has to last, and this is a long game. You got to plan long term for retirement. So there's something to think about when it comes to retirement income. If you need more, delay your retirement, and every year you delay your Social Security, you pick up 8% more. And you're not going to need that extra 8% now. You're not going to need it next year. You're not going to need it 5 years from now. That other 8% is going to make a huge difference 15, 20 years in the future. And that's what retirement is all about. It's a long game. I mean, honestly, there's people they're gonna work, retire, live in retirement as long as they're working. Something to think about. What else do we mention in the report? One other thing I covered in the report I really thought was interesting in here is Grok. And this is Elon Musk's AI program. It's on X, and you can get it. It's Grok, Grok. And this is a pro-human, human-friendly, political neutral AI. If you go use the other ones like Microsoft's or these other people, they always seem to have a leftist bent into the programs, and people want, and they're also kind of more that that global economic forum. The world is ending, and we need to get rid of human beings philosophy that seems to permeate the Davos crowd. This is a pro-human AI, but the more important thing, and the reason I'm bringing it up to you is, you sign up for this. You can put it on, you keep a window on your browser with it. And anytime you have a question, rather than going to Google, with Google, what was what did the dollar do in 2023 and 2024? It would give you an answer instead of having to wade through a bunch of paid placement websites and advertisements on Google. And that also it's much more thoughtful and will give you kind of a nuanced answer as well. And so this is why we've said that these big mega tech cap valuations. I mean, AI is a real threat to Meta. It's a huge threat to Google. It's a threat to Apple. It's a threat to Microsoft. All these guys that are making money off of you, taking your data every time you're going on the internet, giving you commercials and just making your life miserable. These AI bots are going to do a great job at that. And so if you get a chance, Google's now got it so the Grok is you can even talk to it on the phone. It paints pictures, all types of things. But what you use it, so you just have a window on your browser. You hit it, Grok, and then I pull it up and go, "Hi, Ted Gioka, how are you doing today?" And you ask a question. So use the Grok to replace Google, and you're going to give you a huge help on privacy, and you're going to make your life simple. Over time, these AI assistants are going to be huge. Everyone's going to have their own. They're going to be handling all your passwords. They're going to be handling, I'd like a flight to LA next week. Please book it. The best price in this time frame. They're going to be doing everything, and it's going to be a big game changer. And so, start now. It's Grok, Grok. Is how you pull it up on the system, and it's Elon Musk AI. The another thing we write about in the Max Out Savings Report is this Atlanta GDP number. On a week ago, February 26th, the Atlanta GDP number is kind of a prediction of what the GDP for the economy is going to be. It's one of the better models out there, and it was predicting 3.525% real growth for the first quarter, which is that's not bad, but by middle of this week, it had plunged down to negative 2.8% real growth, which is a recession. And a couple of things. Part of it is a huge surge in gold, which is showing up in industrial metals or industrial metals imports coming from monies pouring out of London and Switzerland, gold, and coming to the United States. And that's causing it. But if you look underneath it, it's still dropping government spending. It's still unemployment that it's looking at. So clearly we're seeing an economic slowdown. As we said earlier, this is why we've seen this drop in the markets in here, because people are realizing that the economy is starting to slow down. We get some questions on the gold moving over here. This is it's I don't know how many tons of the gold have come over. It's some ridiculous amount of gold has come over into the United States now, and there's a lot of talk on why this is happening. This is a couple thoughts. Tariffs, they seem to blame tariffs and everything. And like the gold's coming over because they're worried it's going to be tariffs. Now, typically gold is rarely ever tariffed. I think it's tariffed in India. Gold is a currency. You don't typically tariff currencies. There's no reason to tariff gold. Most likely, it's a couple things. It could be, if you look at President Trump and Elon Musk have both made remarks about seeing the golds in Fort Knox. Now, that's an interesting thing to say, and it could be that the gold in Fort Knox has been lent out to people like J.P. Morgan or hedge fund operators or things like that, where they lend the gold. They go, "I'll give you 1 ton of gold, and you agree to pay it back in 1 year plus 4%." And which sounds all well and good until you can't get the gold back, and the entity gets goes into bankruptcy or fails, and then you're out your gold. And it could be that these people are scrambling to get their gold to repay the gold loans, because some of them might not want the world to know how much gold they're borrowing from the United States, because some of these people might get pretty angry about it and it could hurt their business. That's one theory. The other theory is that it's short covering, and they're trying to, because gold has gone up, has been so remarkably strong. There's just short covering coming in. And the other theory out there, which is also interesting with gold, and we get a lot of questions on this, and honestly, it's been one of the more interesting financial conundrums I've come across since I've been in the business. Usually I can pretty much tell people where things are going real quickly. This one's been kind of strange, is the possibility, because the movements are so opaque and you're really not sure who's doing it, is that there's concern of capital controls, or maybe this tip with Europe is a little more serious, and people are like, look, I just want to get my gold out of Europe. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure we can trust Starmer. There's no telling what this guy's going to do in the UK, and let's just get the gold out of there where it's going to be safe. And that could be so fear of capital controls, where they say, look, you can't sell dollars for pounds, and or you can't sell gold. We're not going to allow gold to be transferred out of the UK. You still own the gold, but you can't transfer it out. And again, that's another thing. So capital controls are another thing that are a concern. This thing is moving very quickly with Europe. I mean, as we said, the European Bund, the Germans said, we're going to vastly increase spending in Germany. We're really going to increase, this time we're serious about really increasing defense spending, and the German Bund has the biggest move in history, up 30-something basis points, up from 2.4. It actually went as high as 2.9 and ended up at 2.83, I think. So it was a substantial move up, a huge shock to the market. And again, there's things happening very quickly. We're talking to the Russians now. France is talking about extending their nuclear umbrella to all of Europe. The Germans want war. You're seeing just so many things happening in the world. And again, that's uncertainty, and that's not the place you want to be all in on the stock market. You want to be more cautious. We're going back to a 1970s, 80s, 90s type of market, which you're going to see ups and downs, and you got to be in different asset classes and protections. By the way, if you need some help with all this stuff, a couple things. We just talked about some of the things in the Max Out Savings Report, which we just sent out. It's completely free. Go to maxoutsavings.com and just sign up for the free newsletter. Again, we're not calling you. We're not going to bother you. We just send out the report. If you have questions, if you need with your retirement, you're not sure what to do. If you're set for retirement or not, you'd like some help managing it, you're uncomfortable with where you are, we manage retirement assets at Max Out Savings Advisors. We use Charles Schwab to hold our assets, and we use our value investing approach to the market. We put together an individual portfolio that owns stocks, bonds, some mutual funds, ETFs, to build a diversified portfolio to kind of ride through these very turbulent times. If you need some help, just go to our website, maxoutsavings.com, and request a free appointment. I'll be happy to sit down with you and see how you're set for retirement. Anyway, also, remember our motto and philosophy, which is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. That, my friends, is the key to building up wealth. And I want to appreciate everyone listening to the Max Out Savings Show, and we'll see you next week. Until